Hello, this is Paranormal Girl, and today I'm going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, proof of time travel and teleportation. The Philadelphia experiment story. The Philadelphia experiment story is one of time travel, teleportation, and deep-rooted conspiracy. Officially, it's a footnote in the US history with the true story of events obscured by rumours spanning over the decades. On the surface, we appear to have a strange but plausible experiment that ended in disaster and has likely been blown far out of proportion. As far as the story goes, during the deep days of World War II, a US Navy destroyer allegedly vanished from the waters outside of Philadelphia, only to reappear instantaneously hundreds of miles away. It was an accident, an error in an experiment only intended to hide the ship from view, but the result was fantastic and terrifying. Surely this is a case of exaggeration and myth gone wild. The technology to create such an event is available today, much less 70 years ago. It's even possible, if it's even possible at all. But as we dig deeper, we see a picture of government cover-ups, otherworldly intervention, and the arrogant misuse of powers we have yet to understand. Eventually, we are led to wonder if there could be more here than a tall tale. It is possible the events of the Philadelphia experiment really happened. Secret projects and government cover-up. If this story is real, the implications are incredible. As regular citizens, we surely realize there are top secret government projects in the works all the time. Area 51 may or not be a haven for UFOs, but surely it and the facilities like it house incredible government projects that are not yet ready for the public eye. Some may never come to light. To complicate the matter further, the Philadelphia experiment is said to have deep roots in the Montauk Project, an alleged top-secret government program. Is the Philadelphia experiment tale a case where the government tried to cover up such a project, only to have the true story leak out? The idea that the US Navy experimented with teleportation and perhaps even time travel back during World War II only leaves us guessing at the incredible science that has evolved in the time since. Over the years, brilliant inventions from minds like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla have been alleged to have links to the project, furthering the mystery. If the events of the Philadelphia experiment did happen, did the government, or perhaps the nation's top scientists, shut the project down out of fear? Would the US government really refuse to capitalize on such a powerful technology? How do we know about any of this anyway? Project Rainbow. The story began when a man named Morris Jessup went to his mailbox on January 13th, 1955. Not likely expecting anything out of the ordinary. What he found would shock him. A letter from a man named Carlos Allende described the US Navy experiment that had gone horribly wrong and had been kept secret for over a decade. Allende had written the letter after reading a book Jessup had authored, in which Jessup discussed Albert Einstein's unified field theory as a potential means of spacecraft propulsion. Allende outlined an experiment called Project Rainbow, which would later be known as the Philadelphia experiment. It was an exercise conducted in 1943 by the US Navy using Einstein's unified field theory to cloak ships and hide them from view. Here, Allende made an outlandish claim. He said he had witnessed the destroyer USS Eldridge appear and again disappear while he was standing on the deck of a nearby ship. If that's not interesting enough, here's what puts this tale over the top. The Eldridge had been moored in Philadelphia. Allen's ship was in Norfolk, Virginia, 200 miles away. In other words, in an attempt to make the Eldridge invisible, the Navy had inadvertently teleported it from one harbour to another. Allende went further to describe the lingering effects of the experiment on the crew of the Eldridge, which caused them to disappear and reappear without warning at later times. Intrigued, Jessup encouraged correspondence with Allende, but soon began to question his honesty and discontinued the friendship. It may have ended there, if not for a strange copy of Jessup's book that landed in the hands of the Office of Naval Research. Someone had heavily anointed the book in different colour pens. Whoever it was referenced the Philadelphia experiment and seemed to possess highly sophisticated scientific knowledge. Jessup could name one of the writers as Allende, but the identities of the other two remain a mystery. The Philadelphia experiment and Einstein's unified field theory. A conspiracy theory run amok. Conspiracy theory has gone hand in hand with the Philadelphia experiment story from the beginning. If the government really does or did possess this technology, surely some people reason they were hiding it from the people. And as usual, where there is paranoia, there will be fabrication. Various versions of the tale have surfaced over the years, each more bizarre than the last. In some, sailors aboard the Eldridge materialized with body parts fused to parts of the ship, or reappeared across the globe in another country. In other versions, the Eldridge travels back in time. Some of the oddest claims came from a man named Al Bielek, who announced in 1990 that he was a survivor of the experiment. Rife with government conspiracy, lost identities, and alien involvements, Bielek's claim were often cast aside by even hardcore Philadelphia experiment believers. Unfortunately, these outlandish tales serve only to muddy the actual facts of what occurred that day, which may have been strange enough to begin with. Time travel is theoretically possible, according to Einstein's theory anyway. So, if experiments were conducted on the manipulation of space-time, the results could have been staggering. But even Einstein was still forming and polishing many of his theories, up until the day he died. Today, we know much of what he said was true. How close to the mark were they back then? Did the Philadelphia experiment open a wormhole or a black hole? One theory often bantered about is that the experiment conducted back in Philadelphia in 1943 somehow opened a small wormhole or black hole that warped space-time, thus moving the Eldridge from Philadelphia to Virginia in the blink of an eye. In an interesting idea, and even a remotely true, it seems unlikely that even if a few sailors were knocked around in the process, the United States would have given up on the expansion and perfection of such technology. Controlling a device like this would mean Allied aircraft and warships could appear anywhere around the globe at will. This would have been priceless at the time when the outcome of World War II was far from certain. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, wormholes are possible, theoretically. And since the aim of the unified field theory was to rectify general relativity with the theory of electromagnetism, it seems reasonable that this was grounds for serious advancement. But it also seems very odd the United States military would scrap work on such a device simply because it was too dangerous, and then go on to create the most devastating weapon in the history of the world. It seems reasonable that, if they were working on a device capable of teleportation, that either the work continued in secret, or possibly even still continues to this day. The idea of black holes are less compelling. Had the Philadelphia experiment resulted in the creation of a singularity in the Philadelphia harbor, it too would have ended World War II for all of us. Black holes lead nowhere, so the Eldridge, along with the rest of our solar system, would have been crushed into infinitesimal nothingness. The Philadelphia experiment debunked. Even if we believe that Einstein's theories could have been put into practice, that a ship could be rendered invisible, or that it may have even been possible that its ship could teleport from one city to another, more mundane details might ultimately doom the story. Skeptics argue that USS Eldridge, according to naval records, was nowhere near Philadelphia during the time period when this experiment allegedly took place. In fact, according to both naval records and veterans who served aboard the ship, the Eldridge never docked in Philadelphia. Conspiracy theorists, of course, will only point this out as more evidence of a government cover-up. Less debatable is the fact that no universally accepted unified field theory exists. Einstein's work was left open-ended, and the subject continues in debate among modern physicists. Which brings up another interesting conspiracy theory. Some say Einstein did in fact discover a unified field theory, but destroyed it following the results of the Philadelphia experiment, believing mankind was not ready. For this to occur, and for the government to allow it, we have to assume the results of the experiment were far more horrific than even the worst reports could indicate. The legend lives on. Over the years, the true story of whatever happened on that fateful day has been jumbled up to the point where the Philadelphia experiment is considered more fiction than history. Maybe that's exactly how the government wants it. In the spirit of true conspiracy theory, there are those who believe the government intentionally muddied the waters to hide the true story of the Philadelphia experiment. Perhaps, as some claim Einstein stated, it was because our world was not yet ready for such powerful technology. Or maybe this technology is still in use today, and the government would prefer the world knew nothing about it. Maybe the technology used in the Philadelphia experiment came from an otherworldly origin and needs to be protected. Whatever the reason, many believe the story of the Philadelphia experiment is rife with conspiracy. Does it make sense? Could it really have happened? What is our government hiding? Despite logical evidence to the contrary, many cling to the idea that the Philadelphia experiment was not only possible, but really happened. It hints at clandestine powers, conspiracy, and government cover-up. Maybe we're compelled to hope for the impossible and wish for the whimsical. Or maybe the believers are right, and the US Navy really did partake in a top-secret experiment on that day so long ago. Surely, unbelievable things must happen in this world from time to time. And as with any other fantastic tale, it's important to view the Philadelphia experiment with a healthy dose of skepticism and a human dose of wonder. So my question to everyone, do you believe the Philadelphia experiment really happened? And I do. And I think it was a huge, massive cover-up by the government, because they were tapping into things that, like they said, the world wasn't ready for. But I think, especially with CERN and the Hadron Collider, They're already doing these experiments. They're already opening the wormholes. And also, time travel is possible.